great conversation with one of our early investors, Marcus Ogawa from Quest Venture Partners, and I asked him the exact same question. I said, how do you know that you're spending too much? And he said, look, you want to be as lean as you can possibly be, so you want to be able to see the bone, right? But if the bone starts coming through the skin, you've gone too far. So you essentially want to get to a place where you start to feel things break, and that's when you should invest in it. Folks have different theories here. A lot of folks focus on, I'm going to invest for the long-term growth of the company. I'm spending now for what we will do later. I tend to say, let's invest now for what we did the past 6 months. Because if we're not stretching, if we're not pushing sort of our own personal limits, one, our team isn't growing fast enough, and two, we're not getting the best return on our dollar. And that return on our dollar is super important for overall sort of value of the investment, of course, personal growth, but then also the return on investment of our employees and our investors, and making sure that equity is worth as much as possible. And so I tend to say, hey, it's time to invest when we're starting to experience material pain, when we can't get to the next step because we don't have it. So, you know, we were a relatively small company for quite some time. Our first, I'd call it 11 months, we were at maximum 3 full-time employees. We are now, you know, creeping up in headcount, but it's definitely further behind in headcount than what I see at comparable companies at a comparable stage. And it's, for me, it's a philosophical thing. You know, I think it's really important to push every dollar as far as you can, not at the expense of the customer experience, not at the expense of growth, but making sure that we're getting the absolute best ROI out of that dollar for ourselves and our investors.
So pardon my grotesqueness here, but what are the signs of a compound fracture in a startup then?
So if you start getting a flood of customer inquiries about, hey, this thing isn't working, you know, that's one of them. If you have orders and you can't fulfill them, that's certainly one. If you see low-hanging fruit in marketing, but you don't have anybody to execute against it, that's another. So when you start to see sort of critical pieces of the business not getting the service they need, that's the time. You know, I've gotten questions from folks saying, you know, how many people do you have in your call center? And I say 0. And they're like, well, how is that? You should have, you know, you should have a call center. You should have lots of people. Ultimately, we can service our customers really, really well without one, so we don't have one. At some point in this business, we will absolutely operate a call center, but we don't need one today to deliver a great customer experience, so we don't do that. You know, at some point, if we get, you know, if our email inbox is flooded with 100 unread messages and the questions that we're getting are so complex that they all require a call back, then maybe it's time to switch. And so it's mostly a feel thing. You get to a place where you start feeling like this is becoming a pain point, and so you address it with investment and, you know, in people or technology or whatever it might be. You know, the one place where it's really about dollars is in marketing, because at some point, you know, organic marketing only gets you so far, so you have to invest dollars in marketing to scale the business. So that one's a little bit more cut and dry. So that really becomes about planning and, you know, what we think from a forecast perspective, X dollars in marketing is going to get us in sales, et cetera. But the other piece of the business, the more operational side of things, I think it comes just before you get to see the bone. It's time to start investing in that area.